Today's podcast is brought to you by Blue Canary. The bird has landed on beautiful Bainbridge Island, conveniently located at 499 Madison Avenue. ASE Master Technician Clint Ramsey brings over 15 years of experience, award-winning diagnostic skill, and a desire to reinvent the automotive repair experience. Schedule an appointment online at bluecanary.biz or call them today at 206-451-4220.
I'm Maria Metzler, the Executive Director of Helpline House. The global pandemic has affected us all differently. If you or your neighbors need food assistance, mental health counseling, rental assistance, or Parks and Rec vouchers, please reach out. Helpline House can help in many ways. Find us on the web at helplinehouse.org. It's what we do. Neighbor helping neighbor.
I got something for your mind, body, and soul. I got something for your mind, body, and soul.
You have found the B.I.STANDER Podcast. Now here's your host with the most, Tiny Tim.
What's cracking, Podcastville? You found the B.I.STANDER Podcast. Today on the podcast, I have an old school friend from Bainbridge Island, Francis Waplinger. How you doing, Francis?
I'm good, thanks. How about yourself?
Really well. It's like half your lifetime since I've talked to you, and it's long overdue.
Just about. Yep. It's been a while.
How many years did you live on Bambridge Island?
Ooh, I don't know exactly, but 15, 16 years maybe. So pretty much from third grade through high school. And then I'd come back, when I was away going to college, I'd come back every summer.
And you went to design school or something like that?
Yeah. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, Savannah, Georgia.
Where the voting just got fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a mess there, but I don't know. Anyone I talk to about Savannah, I tell them to visit Savannah because it's really awesome. And I think it's a little bit different than the kind of rest of the state. Definitely an eclectic mix in that city.
Yeah, rural versus urban is different everywhere. It's just like here in Washington State, you get over the mountains, there's a different viewpoint. They don't want to pay taxes for the bridge to go to East Side when they're never going to drive over it their entire lifetime. So how was it growing up here? Well, let me take it back for the listeners. Francis played soccer for me at Emerald City when you were a high school player. Then I left to East Side and Team Seattle, and I believe you went to play for Tommy Jenkins at Crossfire?
That's correct. Yep.
Sounder legend. And what was it like living on Bainbridge at that time?
I mean, I would imagine kind of similar to how it is now, but I would say kind of typical teenage years. I mean, it was awesome. Thing with playing soccer, though, I had to go into Seattle. So it was a lot of commuting, which in hindsight now, I think is kind of insane. But at the time, I was trying to play at the highest level soccer I could. And that's just kind of what you had to do. But I think also it was kind of nice to get off the island a little bit for me personally. You meet people from other areas of Seattle and the state. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible, the commitment you showed to the team. I was thinking I would never, ever do that for my kid, and now I'm doing that and more, driving to Tacoma to get good training, because you can only do so much on the island.
There was one year I was going to Tacoma, another year was Federal Way, then it was mostly Seattle, kind of in between there.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I guess you see it in some things, like with the soccer. I think, Bainbridge, there are its limitations in certain things like that. But overall, I mean, when I think of my childhood growing up there, I mean, overall it was, fantastic.
You never got bored or anything like that? What kind of things did you do for fun?
Well, I played soccer, so that took up a decent amount of time.
Took up a lot of time.
Teenage years, I skateboarded a lot and just hung out with friends, a little bit of video games here and there. And then if I got too restless, I'd be going to Seattle. So I had some friends in Seattle. We'd kind of go in Seattle, go to some shows, tons of music venues. We'd always be going to that kind of stuff, and just kind of popping around the city. Whereas I had some buddies that really just kind of stayed more on Bainbridge, but I had a group of friends on Bainbridge, and we always would go in maybe like Friday, Saturday, go to some music venues, stuff like that.
Right on. You really had to manage your homework with the amount of commuting you did. Thankfully, you're on the ferry when you're going to Seattle, and you got a good 30 minutes to crack a book each way. How did you juggle athletics and academics? And then also, second part of that question is, how do you feel about the education that you got on Bainbridge Island?
Well, I guess my grades, I never felt like they were a priority, if that might sound strange.
Sounds familiar to me.
But yeah, I mean, I had a few classes I really enjoyed at school. There's a few really good teachers. So I think for me, yeah, there are some classes I was found very difficult. Math, science, definitely not a strong point. I took foods and international foods, I think combined like 2 or 3 times. And then, yeah, so I did try to have the balance. And, I would do my homework on the ferry. But I think with soccer, I was more, not dedicated to that, but I was just way more interested in soccer and trying to push myself in that regard. Whereas school, there's a few classes I really enjoyed that I did try pretty hard in. And then the other classes, it was more just trying to get the work done.
Yeah, as fast as you can.
Yeah, I always did all the homework. I did all the work, but maybe sometimes, I didn't put enough time in to really, get A's and everything. Whereas I'd rather go out skateboarding. I'd rather see my friends, or, I had soccer too. Right. So sometimes I'd do as much as I could on the ferry, and if it was due the next day. Well, I wasn't going to stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. I really wanted to get, sleep. So I felt fresh. So.
Why do you think you don't play anymore?
Oh, man. Well, I did a bunch of traveling. Then when I got back to the States, I was kind of living out in on the eastern end of Long Island. I was kind of thinking about joining a league. But I kind of I didn't really want to commit to something that's so organized. So I know you have to have a schedule and that kind of thing. So right now I feel like, I kind of fell into this passion of mine, which is shoemaking. And that's kind of the focus. So whenever I have free time, I pop out, and now I've taken back up skateboarding. So that's what I've kind of done. So with soccer, yeah. So with soccer, I think, I love the game, but, being in an organized adult league, there is that fear of being injured, whereas someone that hasn't played in years, they just come in, they whack you, and, you're finished. Whereas with skateboarding, of course you can get hurt, but if I do get hurt, it's my own fault. It's not, someone just running me over.
You can control it a little bit more.
Yeah, I can kind of push my comfort. I'm not trying crazy big tricks. I'm, sticking to pretty basic stuff. And then also with I like having my schedule now where I'm flexible. I can pop out, skate with some friends, in my free time, but it's not so kind of, the time's not as managed. And with what I'm doing with shoemaking, I mean, some days like, oh, I got to go do this, or I got to go that, do this, send this thing in the mail or whatever.
Yeah. I often tell people that you have to be in that space to be a creator. And sometimes you're just not in that space. So forcing it isn't going to work. You can't just show up and create. And the stuff that you do is so intense and beautiful and detailed. You got to really be into the moment.
I think too, like, I was just going to add too, I think the intensity I had in my youth for soccer and that structure, in a sense, I've kind of put that into my shoemaking. Whereas the same focus, physicality, that mentality, I think carries over a little bit. So I kind of get that out of my system now with shoemaking. Whereas with skateboarding, it's kind of my free time that's not scheduled, if that makes sense.
So skateboarding and soccer, they have a very strong footwear culture to them, don't they? Do you think that leaked into you as well? Like, were you the one that always had to have the new kicks?
I don't know if it was the newest kicks, but I always looked for something a little more obscure that maybe not everybody had, whether it was a different color or style or brand.
Like Jomo or...
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Or just like getting like a gray cleat instead of black. I didn't want to be too flashy and get like the all white, but gray, it's subtle. It's a dark color shoe, but slightly different than an all black.
It cracks me up, kids getting orange plastic shoes on the soccer field, and I'm like, you look like a cone. That one we'd sit down and dribble around. Hey, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, back in my day, most of the shoes were still leather. So
kangaroo.
I'm out of the loop. Exactly. I'm out of the loop with soccer cleats now.
Well, they're about 5 times as expensive, made out of crap, and last a quarter of the length of time.
Oh my God.
And they're not supportive of your feet. And they're usually made by child labor.
I believe that.
Before we get into being a cobbler and such, I'd like to know where you've traveled. I know you were in Florence. I've been to Italy, and it's just the most beautiful place in the world. And New Zealand's right up there too. I gotta throw that in there.
Sure.
You graduated from design school and then started on this path in Florence where you became an apprentice. Tell me how that all evolved and how much prior travel you had.
Sure. So graduated Savannah College of Art and Design 2010. It's one of the only dates I still remember. So graduated there. It was kind of when the whole economy had still kind of bottomed out. And no one was really... So I studied interior design. That was my major. And by the time I graduated, I just hated it. It was all on a computer, and I was just kind of miserable. But the silver lining of the recession for myself was there was not really pressure to go into my field. There was no jobs. People that loved what they did in interior design, that did, got way better grades in school, they couldn't get jobs. And when I knew they couldn't get jobs, I figured I probably couldn't get a job, so it kind of, I think, my family's always been supportive of what I want to do, but it kind of took pressure off. Everyone my age, it was, you go work at a restaurant or just odd jobs. So with no pressure to really go into my field, partly because of the economy, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, we decided to travel, and we did what's called woofing, willing workers on organic farms. So we went over to Australia, and we were there.
Like you, Ringo.
We were there 6 months. So 3 months we were in Sydney, and we were working at Sydney Harbour Marriott, big hotel downtown Sydney. And then the other 3 months we worked our way down to Melbourne, working on really small, not like industrial agriculture, but small family farms. And then we actually did a little mini trip to New Zealand, just to Auckland area, like 10 days. So we did kind of that 6 months. And then while we were there, we were like, what are we going to do when we get back? And this is awesome, but we can't just travel forever. And we actually got like an Italian book, like a little Italian dictionary. And we were like, we should go to Italy. Like, I think I want to do shoemaking. And I'd done a little bit before this traveling.
How did you get exposed to the first?
So I guess to
shoemaking?
backtrack real quick, we had a family friend who ran a shoe store in Seattle. And she had heard of this place in Port Townsend, so an hour from Bainbridge, called Shoe School. And you can go and make a pair of shoes. So
Just for like a night, a week?
It was 1 week. It was 1 week. So you stay over in Port Townsend, and you stay at like this cool kind of castle hotel they put you up in. And there's I think it was like maybe around eight students. And it's this couple, and they kind of live out in the woods in Port Townsend. It's called Shoe School. So while I was still in college, I did that for a week when I was home one summer.
Wow.
And I just had a blast. It was amazing. Because I had always been into footwear. I never thought of making the shoes. I would always think of design or different colorways. I would airbrush, like an all black pair of sneakers. I'd airbrush them different colors. So I did that one summer before I graduated. And they kept saying, if you have fun here, there's this guy on YouTube. You got to check him out, blah, 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 blah. So it's this guy, Marcel Meerschaum. So I had graduated. So that summer I graduated before we traveled. I did a 1 week course in Brooklyn with him. And so that was kind of my experience. Then we went, so I had that in my mind. And then we did this woofing and working in Australia. So I kind of had in my mind these two shoe experiences. And it's like, man, like that is something I just had so much fun. So it was really only 2 weeks, but like I was just, something about it just stuck in my mind. And so Megan, my now fiance, but at the time she was thinking of doing classical drawing and painting. I was kind of thinking of doing shoes. We're like, how are we going to do this? Where do we go? What do we do? So once we came back, she's from the eastern end of Long Island. So we came back out there and we're just working at a bed and breakfast out there. And then we're working, saving, figuring out what we want to do. And we ended up in Florence.
Wow. And now, do you guys share a studio? Because she's a classically trained artist and you... Okay.
Yep. So now we share a studio in Brooklyn. So we moved to Brooklyn a little over a year ago, and we got a studio in Brooklyn last October.
All right. So let's get into this shoemaking. Do they still call it a cobbler, or is there some fancier title now for you?
Technically cobbler, it's repair. So you have shoe repair and shoemaking. So you could call me, I guess, a shoemaker, and then the traditional English word is a cordwainer. Okay. And then cobbler or cobblering, that's technically repair work. So some of the work does overlap, but they are quite different in many ways, where some of the expertise and specialization is a little bit different.
Okay, you're in the Zoom gloom tube here with me, and it's an elevator, and you got 3 floors. What's your elevator pitch? What do you do, and why do I need to have a pair of your shoes?
Well, can't say I was ever good at elevator pitches, but it's a handmade product, and it's made specifically for your measurements. And you can choose all different kinds of leather, customization, and you're supporting a historic craft and an independent artisan.
Beautiful. That's exactly how I describe it. Now, there is such a huge sneaker culture with the airbrushing and removing of stitching, and you said handmade. Is there a lot of machine-made shoes?
Yeah, I mean, anything that's ready to wear. So anything that you go into a store and it's sitting on the shelf, you try on a few different sizes, and you buy it. It's made on a machine.
Yeah, I love
yes,
seeing.
hands touch it. There's a person touching the shoe, but there's all these different, almost every process in making a shoe has been automated.
Right. Because there used to be a selling point. I used to love the Adidas Copa Mondials. They were they said they were double stitched, kangaroo leather, hand sewn. So that hand sewn is kind of like when you're on a restaurant menu and they say hand torn lettuce. I'm like, did you have to differentiate between a machine torn lettuce or what? What's the difference? To me? It's just a salad. But I think in shoes, it's much different. I've seen some of your videos. I've seen your shop, which is just immaculate. And you're pinpointing little holes all through the leather. You're stretching different materials. You're creating the sole, the arch, the polish of it, the absolute look from scratch.
Yeah. So one of the things that still is done by hand, if you will, it's stitching the uppers. So you have a sewing machine, it's hand operated, and you do have to have a very skilled person that operates a sewing machine to stitch the uppers. And the uppers, if you had a soccer shoe, you have the sole, which has the cleats, and then the whole leather part, that is the uppers.
Oh.
Okay,
it's not the sole, the leather part.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that's the one thing that, yes, you're using machine, but it's a sewing machine. And the technology on those, it's changed a bit, but it's, pretty much the same it's been for the last 100 years or so.
Now, it's almost cathartic to watch you work. Like it's like a meditation music app in a lot of ways, because you're just taking small nails, hammers, working. It's such a craft. How long does it take to make your average wingtip?
So that can be, you're talking around 80 hours to 140, depending on the complexity of the uppers, the construction. With that said, for a first pair of shoes, if someone orders a first pair of bespoke shoes, I do at least, one fitting shoe, usually two. So I'm almost making 3 pairs of shoes.
One being the dummy or the mold, or?
Yeah, so you would try on several pairs of fitting shoes before I actually make the final shoe to check the measurements, check the design, make sure it's comfortable on your foot. So bare bones, you're talking, 80 hours for a pair of pretty simple construction, nothing too complicated. And that excludes, the fitting shoes and stuff like that.
And what kind of people are coming to you for these shoes?
That's correct.
Now, what kind of people are coming to you to get these shoes?
All different kinds of people. Kind of maybe more stereotypical, finance guys, maybe some lawyers, stuff like that, where, you have to dress up every day and they get paid pretty well. So, they want to be comfortable. They want something, customized for them, and they're going to be wearing it every day. They have to wear a suit and tie. And then you also get people that just really kind of are obsessed with shoes, or they want to support an artisan, or they have minor, foot issues, nothing that you'd have to see a doctor for. But, one of the common ones is, where their toes are on their forefoot, it's a bit wider and they have a really narrow heel. So they have problems finding a dress shoe that fits them properly, where their foot's not sliding around or the shoe's not way too tight. And then you just have people that are obsessed with shoes. They love shoes, and they've kind of fallen into, collecting shoes, really, kind of how everyone has a hobby. Their hobby is kind of learning about footwear, buying footwear, and then they also like to just dress up and have a certain style. Yeah,
I'm frumpy sweats on Zoom, but when I do dress up, I like to go straight to my Doc Martens, and I should have brought these over for you and shown you. They're two-tone wingtips, big sole, a lot of stitching, a lot of, what do you call the little peck holes?
That'd be broguing.
Say again?
Broguing.
Yeah, a lot of that.
And then if you have little kind of teeth marks, like the little triangles above that, that's gimping. So sometimes you'll have just broguing, where it's the decorative punches, the decorative holes. And then sometimes they'll combine that with gimping, which are the little zigzag marks that kind of sit above that.
And is that something like you knock a piece of steel stamp into the shoe, or how is that made? That's how it's made?
So I have a number of punches, and it's literally just punching it with a hammer. They do have like a machine you can do that with, but I don't use that right now.
You like to add hours of labor?
Yeah, well, frankly, the machine, I looked into it, and it's quite expensive. So
yeah, seeing your shop, you have to stay really organized. Where do you source most of your stuff? And are you one of those guys that look around? I know there's a huge flea market culture in New York for vintage type tools to make shoes.
So when I was in Florence, Italy, I would go to all the vintage markets, antique markets, and they would have, some really old, cool tools. I still use a hammer today. I have a few main hammers for different processes, but I still have one that I use every day from market there.
Cool.
I think. Yeah, I haven't really been around New York to check out the markets. I was coming to the city, but, not so often that I would kind of go. And now that I've been here, it's kind of been COVID situation. So I would like to go to those markets, check them out. But for shoemaking tools, probably not so much. In Florence, Italy, it's everything shoemaking is there. So there's old tools floating around.
So where do you source your shoe materials from?
It's all from Europe. So everything I order comes out of Europe. So mostly Italy. So all the leather, Italy, Germany, France. But my main distributors, there's one in the UK, one in Vienna, and then in Italy.
Nice. What's the material? It looks like on some shoes, you've actually, I'm a big velour suede silk guy, old school. And weekends were made for velour in my house. I saw some type of material close to that on some shoes that you made. I was wondering what that was made out of.
So it would be suede. I have some shoes I've done in suede. Yeah.
And that's suede's just cow suede, or?
Yep.
Goat
it's
suede?
Bovine. It's cow.
Okay.
So it's just, yeah. And actually suede is quite durable. People kind of think, oh, it's not really durable. It's so soft. The only issue you have is with a light color suede, it can stain pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
But if you use like a darker color, it's actually quite durable.
Puma suedes. Those were some of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And, my parents grew up listening to Elvis, so they were jamming the blue suede shoes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When I got enough money, I impressed my parents and bought some. I think first blue pair was the Gazelles by Adidas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've gone back into sneakers since I started skateboarding again lately. So I've kind of been, got my eye on that a little bit. And then I met a few guys who are into sneakers. So, they're kind of doing the deconstruction, reconstruction.
Yeah, that's really big.
Recon. So I've chatted with those guys a little bit, but it's still quite another world from what I do.
Yeah, and
even though it's shoemaking.
Kind of the corny printing on the shoes. You get a white canvas shoe and they put it through a 3D printer or something. And
yeah.
Get your girlfriend's face on their shoe or whatever you want.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I like, and, a lot of it's personal preference.
Yeah, I think all of it.
Yeah.
Or in price and supply too. So.
Yeah.
What was the question I was just about to ask? Shoot. So have you heard of this? I don't know what this site is, but a lot of rappers and hip kids go on this site. It's kind of like an eBay auction for shoes. And then rich people seem to outbid each other, and it's very, very competitive. And I was wondering if there's something like that in the dress shoe market.
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm kind of a Luddite, I guess.
Good word.
Like I have, I use Instagram. Well, if I didn't have a business, I probably wouldn't have Instagram. And I'm still, I did my own website. You kind of have to. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're just starting off, if I'd been around for 50 years and that,
So is most of your business word of mouth?
Yeah, word of mouth. Some people find me on Instagram, other people it's word of mouth. I work with a tailor over here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So I have most of my shoes on display in his store, and he's been around 20 plus years. So kind of working with him, I have a private workshop, anyone's welcome to come visit, but it's not a storefront. And then Instagram, word of mouth. I've had a few write-ups online, a few articles written about me online and in print. So just a little bit, here and there, and people kind of trickle in.
Do you do any work with fashion shows or trunk shows or anything like that?
I've done a few trunk shows. I've done a few trunk shows in Seattle, actually.
And define a trunk show for me.
Basically, trunk show. So the one, for example, in Seattle, I partnered with a tailor, John DeCaro. And, I chatted with him on the phone. When I was in Seattle, I met him, showed him some samples. And he was like, hey, I totally get what you're doing. If you want to, host a trunk show in my shop, you can have a Saturday and that's your Saturday. So basically I came to his shop. I set up all my samples I have. So sample shoes, all my sample leather swatches. And then anyone that want to come in, talk to me. If they want to order, I'll measure their feet, take their order there. So that's that's a pretty basic trunk show, but that's what it is.
How many shoes do you think you've sold over your career?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite? Do you make your own shoes for yourself?
Oh, yeah. I only wear my own shoes. So unless I'm going skateboarding.
Such boss.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I have favorite shoes I've made for myself. I have some shoes I've made for clients that maybe I enjoy making more. Certain style, for example, I don't really like loafers that much.
No.
Not because I don't like how they look. I don't like to wear them. I like a lace up. I like my shoes really tight, snug. I lace them as tight as I can. My foot's vacuum packed in there. So for me, that kind of shoe, an Oxford, that's my favorite style personally. So it's kind of my favorite to make. So those are kind of my favorite. Whereas I'll happily make a loafer for a client, but it's not my personal favorite style.
Where do you see the business going in the post-COVID future?
Well, I'm slowly just trying to build out my client base. I mean, I haven't been around that long. A lot of guys doing what I'm doing.
Really?
They're talking. The guy I apprenticed with in Italy, he's been around 25 years. And then you have big name, people like John Lobb out of UK, and they've been there over 100 years, their store. So I'm trying to, expand my client base, expand my name, and also just keep, I want to keep this craft alive. I want to get people interested in handmade footwear. I want to get people excited about it, and also, educate people about handmade footwear. And I think it's important, and I don't want it to be lost to history. And I also enjoy, that's the only thing I really want to be doing.
Well, I think with your background, you could have a bed and breakfast week-long shoe school that people could go for a tourist attraction / DIY craft making thing that you could get a pretty penny for, and do that once or twice a year?
Yeah, I mean, down the road, that would definitely be something that would be really cool. Right now, I do offer classes, but it's just one-on-one, and usually it's 1 week, so it's 5 to 6 days. Or I do a 2-week course, and that's 2 weeks each week, 5 to 6 days. And since it's one-on-one, I can tailor it to each individual student. But most people that do those, they do come to me with a little bit of experience, because since it's one-on-one, like, oh, I've done this a little bit, but I really want to hone in on this part or learn this construction. So I do some teaching. I'd love to do more of that as well. So it's all about finding kind of the balance between the teaching and then also making for clients.
Making money, right? And having time for yourself to skateboard. And
yeah, I mean, that's the challenge. That's what's really been the challenge. When I first started, I was so focused on the making. Now it's about, okay, how can I actually make this a business, sustainable business that can, sustain my livelihood. And because with me, there's no business plan to, get huge and make tons of money and then sell it, or, I'm not trying to grow this thing until it's enormous. At some point I would love to have 1 or 2 employees / apprentices, but I'm not trying to just get as big as possible, which it's kind of weird maybe, because I feel like
I've always liked that about you. You're simple and content and happy, but yet full of discovery and life, and it radiates. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and like with the shoes, just like with the soccer, I'm always trying to push myself. I always want to get better. And every shoemaker I've known that has been successful, they're not just stuck in their ways. Like, oh no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. They're always pushing in the envelope personally for themselves, because that's how, they keep people excited about their business.
Well, tell people where they can see some of your work and how to connect with you.
So my website, www.francis...
Oh, stop. Nobody says www anymore.
Okay, franciswaplinger.com.
There you go.
So Francis with an I, Waplinger is Waplinger. So franciswaplinger.com, and then Francis Waplinger on Instagram.
Do you have any shows or anything coming up, or any events or anything exciting?
No, I mean, no events. COVID, it's kind of been a roller coaster a bit.
Think?
Yeah, I mean, I know for everybody, it's been crazy. So we'll have to see. I mean, I would love to do more podcasts, doing something like we're doing here. I mean, that's fantastic. And yeah, I'm really looking to kind of get published more, get some more, hate the word advertising, but just kind of get people know about me that are interested in this topic. But right now I'm just in the workshop working. I don't really have any events at the moment coming up.
Well, Podcastville, go out there and, like I always say, support creators. You can support this show on Patreon. Please support Francis and look at his great work, and support the artisanal crafts that are dying off in this tech-heavy world that we're in right now. Francis, please say hi to your family. I've yet to meet Megan, so she's a lucky lady. I know that. Tell Ashley I said hello. Your little sister gets married before you do. What's up?
Yeah, that's right.
Put a ring on that, man. I appreciate your time, and if I'm ever in Long Island, because I go out to Syracuse every once in a while, maybe we can connect. And if you come this way, please give me the heads up, and I look forward to hosting you out here.
All right, I definitely will be in touch. I mean, I can't wait to get out to Seattle. It's been a while, so I will let you know next time I'm in town.
All right, I'm going to kick the ball around with you, and you're going to put me on a skateboard.
Sounds good. We'll do it.
Take care.
You too.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Listen to the Bystander. Be kind. Thanks, Francis. You rock.
Thank you.
Wake up in the morning, yawning, cops watching, wait to kick the dough in, cause I know I got them dope pins and it don't end, so my enemies got no friends. Yeah, it don't end. I wake up in the morning, yawning, cops watching, wait to kick the dough in, cause I know I got them dope pins and it don't end, so my enemies got no friends. Yeah, it don't end. You come to my hood and tell me how to live, I think I'm good. That's not how it is, not how it works. So hours I work on my craft like I'm leaving the earth, like trees in the earth, getting deep in the dirt. Not for reason I search, that's for the birds, like the season of terps. You see, yeah. At first, you're the only thing I need on this earth, then. Well, you're the only reason I hurt. At first, you're the only thing I need on this earth, then. Well, the only reason I hurt, maybe, baby, that's just how I twist it. But I know you got a hit list of misters who dish it, so now I can't have your big lips. Just wanna love you for real though, but when you come to work, your wig is still told, so you can't feel no access to your seal, so and so I gotta pay the bill though and get fed, barely half the meal slow. Girl, yeah, love is all I'm really here for. Wake up in the morning, yawning, cops watching, wait to kick the dough in, cause I know I got them dope pins and it don't end, so my enemies got no friends. Yeah, it don't end. I wake up in the morning, yawning, cops watching, wait to kick the dough in, cause I know I got them dope pins and it don't end, so my enemies got no friends. Yeah, it don't end. See, me, I always been a thinker. See, you telling me we gon' sink, don't compute in my brain. I don't just shoot, I'm careful of my aim, and I'll be shooting till you care for the same. On the same tree like some pairs, I'm just saying, we all have prayers for the same. Already there is the plane, cop you a ticket, have you a visit to where bliss is. First, you're the only thing I need on this earth, then. But you're the only reason I hurt. At first, you're the only thing I need on this earth, then. But you're the only reason I hurt. Ralph Rain. Yeah, it's Ralph Rain.